Everybody, it's Man 6 Adventure, and it is special this week. It's episode 93, and the gang's all here, man. You know, you have seen the videos from our roaring reporter, worldwide stuff coming in from our man, Jeff Clare. But today, he's sitting on his ass, relaxing at his house in Hawaii.
Live and in living color.
And you know what? He told me, Dave, that this is getting to be commonplace because of this goddamn pandemic. He's been at home for a long time. But I do want to tell you guys something. He broke into the archives, and I don't know why there were any archives. We're going to have to talk about that, Jeff, because they should have been coming in all along. But he sent me some great videos that he had been taking on his last worldwide trip of his roaring reporter, and we posted two of them fresh this weekend. So be sure you go to our YouTube page, Man 6 Adventure. You can go to our website, but everything's up first at our YouTube page. Go there, check it out. And I posted those last night. They've already got like 5 or 6 looks at them. So,
and 2 were me, and 1 was Brad, our YouTube channel.
I looked at it 3 times too, so there's 5.
There we go. But hey, no, it's fun, and we appreciate you doing those. But you know, Jeff Clare, he's the man. Okay, I mean, we've known Jeff for years, and we go between the music industry, cars, drag racing. We see each other at all those type of things. But here's a guy. Now, I had to write the list because it's so impressive and so long. But Jeff was, of course, the video director for Van Halen, but he's also worked for Madonna, AC/DC, Aerosmith, Metallica, Rush, Barbra Streisand, Neil Diamond, and most recently, Kevin Hart, where he scored us some passes. Dave and I went back. We did a whole show around that, which was really cool. And, you know, I think you've probably heard of some of those acts. I mean, they're fairly well known. And but hey, welcome to Man 6 Adventure, and this for everyone is a carry-on from episode 92, where Dave and I shared thoughts, stories, and remembrances of the great Eddie Van Halen, who was not only a fantastic worldwide phenomenon and rock god, but we were all fortunate enough to call him a friend. And we talked about this before the show. We're damn lucky because there are people in the music industry that I know. I talked to a guy, you guys, this week that was pretty big in the music industry, and, you know, kind of on the fringes. You know, he worked for radio, he worked for this, and he told me he worked at one of the big rental places. And his big Eddie Van Halen story was that one time when he was working the rental desk, his guitar tech called, and Ed was not on the phone, but in the background going, "Yeah, man, that's exactly what I need." And he goes, and he called me by name. And I'm thinking, God damn, how lucky are we that we actually got to know him and have experiences. And so this is a carry on because Jeff wanted to come on, and we gladly said, well, you can come on anytime, Jeff. But today we're going to get more backstage, behind the scenes with Jeff Clare. And by the way, sitting right down there, as always, is Diamond Dave. How you doing, bud?
Yeah. What the hell? Who died? What? Eddie? Who? What?
Yeah.
No, Jeff and I.
Well, that's how we met. Was kind of through Van Halen in a way, wasn't it?
Kind of, but I know the very minute I met you, you were with Ralph Shaheen, and
that's right.
And I somehow, being Dave, I walked up and went, "Hey, that guy looks cool," and I sat down and started shooting the shit with you. And then you were talking about something with Ralph, like doing something together, and somehow it ended up you and I doing something together. And if Ralph wanted to do it, that's cool. But I just remember that it was like we had been best friends our whole life, and we had just met. It was like 30 seconds in, and I go, "Holy crap, man!"
That's so Dave, isn't it? Hey, that guy looks interesting. I'm going to go talk to him. You know,
that's exactly what it was.
I mean, it's the truth. We hit
I
it off
stood there. I looked
beautiful.
around. You know, you're in hospitality at Napa, and I'm looking around and going, "Who's that guy?" shit. And here we are.
Here we are. It's been a few years since.
Yeah, it has, but it was awesome. And it's still awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, hey guys, good to be here. I mean, I watch all your episodes from afar. I've been locked down on the island for pretty much over a year. So I haven't left more than once or twice to do some family obligations and to work for 1 week. And that was about it. So I'm here, man. Let's talk backstage.
Jeff, honestly, because everybody out there is going to go, boo-hoo, you're stuck in Hawaii? Come on.
See, but that's by choice too.
But it's
there's reasons for that, and it has to do with the business I've been in my entire adult life. So,
but people, they're not going to feel sorry for you because you're in the Big Island. But it's like any place else, right? You're still stir crazy, pretty much, right?
But something. In all honesty, as far as living here and working in the industry, this is my sanctuary. This is peacefulness, because if you're on the road I've been on this island for 30 years off and on. I moved back to the mainland when my daughter was born, but I've been on this island for 30 years. I've never once been in a bar on this island. Never one time. But when you're on the road, all the world looks the same at night. It's just dark.
I have actually been in a bar.
What a surprise!
On the Big Island. You got to go to Sam Hideaway,
sanctuary, because you go do rock and roll, you go do music, you travel the world, which is, to many, it sounds, and it is fun and glamorous for a time, but it's a gig, and there are expectations, and there are people that depend upon you, specifically the artists. You want to give them what you're the last one to protect them, is my job is, because I'm the guy that sends out all the media. So this place has always been sanctuary for me.
But you've got to get to Sam's Hideaway and say hi to Bailey for me.
I keep telling myself. I mean,
that's good, man. It's not that far.
It actually is.
You know what? Okay.
Here's the honest truth of the matter. I had to go to the airport. I went to go do a game show called Dodgeball Thunderdome on Discovery, and we shot it in Simi Valley. And I realized when I left my part of the island, I hadn't made a right turn down the highway in 7 months.
Yeah, wow. You went the wrong way? Holy crap.
I hadn't left the complex and made a right turn in 7. I hadn't gone towards Kona in 7 months.
Declare compound.
Yeah, well, you know what? Strange though how everything and everyone's world changed. I mean, it just like switched off and changed. Like, you would have, if somebody would have said, "Hey, Jeff, so for months, you're not going to leave. You're not going to, you'd be like, yeah, right. I have obligations. I have things to do." It changed for everyone. And
because the other end, you can't go. I need to go here, but they aren't there. You're like, what? Right. Where do I go?
Everyone has taken it down their own path, because there's people, as we know, that have taken it to the extremes of all they did was change their lifestyle and become this workout fanatic and do that because they finally had the time. There's other people that just slouched on the couch, kept popping beers open and liquor bottles and food. I mean, right. It's strange how people have experienced this.
It is.
But there's a level. We talked about this before we started. There's a level, and I'm 8 months ahead of everybody. March came around and everybody else went to work. I hadn't worked since September, so I had a head start. But there's a level of depression and fear, what's going on with politics in the world, and all the news about death and pandemic and whatever side of the fence you're on and what your personal feelings are. Everybody's scared. There isn't a person that's not honestly scared.
Because you don't know.
If you're close to the entertainment industry, you know that there's people that should have reason to be scared, because it's changing dramatically by the day. And people that were in there tight, man, that were, I know a guy who was a vice president of a very large, production at a very large, well-known company who'd been there for 20 years. He came in a month ago and they said, "Hey, thanks. Don't need you anymore."
We're downsizing.
And he thought, "I'm there till I retire," and this has been happening. If you look at the trades, people that have been there for years, I mean, CEOs and heads of marketing, heads of production, they're being axed left and right.
They're gone.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part. In all honesty, I wish people could understand, because I see posts on, and I'm not a real big Facebook guy, but I do get on there every once in a while, and I see posts where people are condemning the entertainment industry for begging for assistance from the government and unemployment for the gig workers.
Yeah.
And you have to understand, I understand that there are people taking advantage of that. That's our lifeline. That $2,400 a month is everything. And we're down to a couple more months, and who knows? I mean, if there's nothing, there's going to be a lot of people in very desperate places.
And isn't that
it's sad.
Music Cares has a program going, right, to fund musicians?
Well, Music Cares gave out grants of $1,000, which was much appreciated. But as you well know, $1,000 doesn't go very far if you've got. Hey, I'm fortunate that I have one child, and that I'm not under main distress. But there are people with 4 or 5 kids that have mortgages, car payments, insurance.
Like they are, yeah, it's great.
Hey, it's expensive to live right now, so people.
So
let's talk about some fun stuff. Let's. We came on. We're all like, and now all of us are like, oh. But
no. Look, here, I can change that quickly.
Drink of the day.
What I want to do, Jeff, is tell us about how you got into this business, what you've been doing. Explain what you did for Van Halen and kind of set it up for us.
Well, I was a television cameraman in Los Angeles. I used to work at Dodger Stadium for the Diamond Vision.
Diamond Vision, God, I forgot about that.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
And did a lot of baseball and sports and a lot of mobile television in LA. And I remember this clearly because my last sporting event that I really shot, the Dodger game, Dodgers were winning. This kind of relates to what happened the other day when the Dodgers scored all these runs in the first inning and everybody's celebrating. I'm thinking, no, don't count on that.
Don't jinx them, man.
The last game I ever did was with the Dodgers and the Phillies. They were winning 11-0, and they lost 13-11 in 19 innings. And I thought, I'm not doing this anymore. I've had enough of baseball. And somebody offered me a job to go work for Madonna on a world tour. And I said, hell yeah, man, let's go. So a couple of us, and we're all from the broadcast industry, we go to Madonna's rehearsals. And the first thing we walk in, their manager walks up to us and says, whatever you do, don't look at her. Don't look at her.
Which is the hardest thing ever. Then you just want to look at her, right?
Hey, we're there to figure out the show, how we're going to shoot it. And the guy says, don't look at her.
How can you not look at her if you're not? Yeah, that's stupid.
Right. So Madonna's tour, which I thought was, just a lifetime, was only like 6 weeks.
Oh, really?
I thought that was eternity.
Yeah.
Did you ever look at her?
We eventually did. I was actually the handheld cameraman on stage,
right?
And used to mess with her quite often.
Nice.
In fact, that was the Blonde Ambition tour. But when I got back from that, I had the bug was hit me. The company I was working for had been really excelling now and getting new clients. So I went to work for AC/DC after that on the Razor's Edge tour.
Nice.
Cool.
Man, opened my eyes, and there's no looking back from that point on. And that tour would go on for like 2 years.
That's a tour. Now that's a tour. That's how you think about it.
It was a great time. And I mean, even the AC/DC Razor's Edge, then we go do Monsters of Rock in Europe. I mean, we're AC/DC is a couple years. They go everywhere. They take all the equipment. So it's the full production all over the world. And one of the sweetest, they're the sweetest band ever. I mean,
yeah.
As far as friendships go, I mean, Eddie Van Halen and Malcolm Young are two guys that I really connected with in rock and roll, and we're more than just friends. We would talk on downtime and text and call each other. I mean, it's very close friends. But we, and then that AC/DC let in. The next day, I started Metallica, and that tour lasted 4 years.
But honestly, when you go back to Malcolm and Eddie, they're kind of similar personalities, aren't they? Malcolm was more the shy young brother, and Eddie's pretty shy, even though he's a monster guitar player.
You know what? They were very similar people, and they had this similar sense of humor.
Yeah, that's like,
and realistic, and in a realistic sense, they were larger than life.
Yeah.
But yet, when you got them privately, they just wanted to sit there, and Malcolm would just, I want to have a cup of tea and sit there and chat with you about what you're doing, what your life's about. And Eddie, I mean, Eddie Van Halen, who I have been kept in touch with up until a few months ago. We were texting, and he was texting me and asking me if I was okay with the COVID thing. Is there anything he can do for me? I mean, that's what kind of guy he was. Eddie was the kind of guy that you just sat with and just bullshit and told jokes, and you better like being hugged and kissed, because Eddie would come give you a big kiss on the lips. And
we talked about the kissing, yes.
You better love being hugged and kissed. I mean, that if you're too masculine to do that, then you weren't the right guy to be in the Van Halen camp, because those guys were just family. But man, it all ties together. All these tours would, at that time of my career, were one show to another. You would go from one show onto another show, onto another show, onto another show. Like I said, I've lived on this island for 30 years. For the first 20 of them, I was probably home a month, a year, maybe two, maybe.
Imagine. Yeah.
It was life on the road.
And that's where it goes back to what you said, that you haven't been in bars, because when you came home, it was downtime. It was almost just like, all right, man, I just want to fall on the sand and relax, right?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, pretty much it was just get in the water and surf and live life. But you're absolutely right, because the life on the road, that's all that is. And at the time of Van Halen early days and Metallica and AC/DC and Madonna, I was in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
It was go out every night. I mean, we never slept. I don't ever remember sleeping.
It was pack your bags before you went out to the bars, because they were already going to be gone by the time.
Yeah. Absolutely. In fact, you'd give up your hotel room. You'd go straight to the bus and go to sleep, because you knew you were going to miss your call time.
Yeah.
I remember when I was out with the guys one time, they, this was out on one of the tours, and we were back east, and I was out with the band, and they said, well, Brad, pack your bags before we leave, because they got to go on the bus, and they'll be gone by the time we get back. And I was like, it all hit me. I went, that's what these guys are talking about, life on the road. I mean, you lived it. I just experienced it for like a couple days,
And I wouldn't have it any other way, because it's a part of me. It always has been a part of me. I mean, I've never had a real job.
Now wait, Jeff. That's not true, because that's feeding into the mystique of it's just one big party, because that is a job. I mean, there's a lot of deadlines. There's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. I would argue that boring reporter
that is true. See, but I loved every minute. I loved the excitement of the crowd and the nervousness before a show, because these shows too, you have to remember, this was before computer days.
Right.
This is when it was an analog business.
You had to cue everything, right?
Was buttons and knobs, and it was a blast just to get. To play my instrument, my switcher. You were flying over it, and then the show's over, and then you go, "What just happened?"
So what you're saying is that you are living proof of the old adage that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yes, very much so. And the opportunities and the people that I've met, who are still friends worldwide, I'm forever grateful for, because when you're losing guys like Ed and Malcolm died a few years ago, those were influential people to the world, but those were close friends. Yeah. Those were dear close friends. Yeah, but hey, listen, I just want to get back to work. Give people, let's get all this other stuff done so I can get back to work.
Like a typical, so I've been backstage with you, and you literally, you get there, and now it is computers, but you set up everything that show what people see on the screen behind all of that. And I just remember I'm standing with you, and I forget what did you call Steve? Anyway, somebody comes up to you and says,
Steven Tyler,
the Pope or somebody, the Pope wants to talk to you, whatever it was. And I went, who the fuck is that? And you go, Steve. And I go, Steve. And then he goes, oh, Steven Tyler. And it's literally, you are one-on-one with them. And he goes, yeah, Steve wants to talk to you. And you go, yeah, I'll be right back. And I think, holy shit, Jeff's got to go talk to Steve.
And that's a full-time job in itself.
Well, I know. That's a different show for sure. The boss, as you said, but yeah. But it's so, I was always surprised that you were like so in control of all the stuff, the board, everything. Here's my spot. I'll be right here. Come stand by me. So I can tell you out there who are listening, Jeff comes stand right here by me, and I walk over to stand by him. And Johnny Depp's there waiting to go on stage with the guitar. And I'm like, hey, dude, how you doing? And he goes, yeah, I'm good. And I'm just thinking, holy shit, man. Like, there you go.
Well, you know what? Hey, listen, that's kind of part of the job, is that you have, especially with your lead singers, guys like Steven Tyler, you have a personal relationship with them.
Yeah. Makes
sometimes
me look good.
Great, sometimes not so great.
I'll tell you that one time we were Aerosmith concert at Staples Center, and it was Staples, right? Yeah. And so I had, apparently a bunch of my friends went to the show, because like the next day my phone was blowing up. They go, dude, we saw you on the big screen like all the time at Aerosmith. And I go, really? Wow. Because Jeff, I didn't even think of it, but then Jeff was putting me on camera all the time. Like, dude. And then I realized,
you wouldn't look. See, you didn't see yourself on the screen, so I had to keep going back until you.
I know, and it was like, dude. And then I realized there was a super hot chick next to me. And I think that was why. I was like, dude, put pretty girls up on screen, and everybody will watch. That's just the way it is.
Well, he threw us up on screen at Kevin Hart, man. Dave and I were there.
That's right.
See, that's my gig, so I can put whoever I really want up there within reason. Yeah. But hey, Dave, that show at Staples Center, and this is a story that I can say without any fear of too much repercussion. That day, my daughter was there, if you remember.
Yeah, everybody was there.
About 3 years old, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe 4.
Anthony was like 16 or 17 or something like that. Maybe
13 now, but
no, Anthony.
Oh, Anthony, yeah. He was about that age. Yeah. So I'm walking. I go down the dressing room because the wardrobe woman, Bonnie Fleischland, who's a wonderful woman, she made Tyler a little apron and chef's cap. So we went down to thank her for that and took Tyler down. And on the way back, I'm walking by the dressing rooms, and Joe Perry steps out of his dressing room and goes, hey, can I talk to you? And I say, hey, Joe, listen, I've got my daughter. I'll go take her back to her mom, and I'll be right back to talk. He goes, no, come on in, man. And so we go in the dressing room, and I have no idea what he wants to talk to me about. My daughter's walking in, and, hey, Joe, this is my daughter. And, oh, she's cute, dude. When he makes a right turn, it kind of goes into the urinals of the sporting locker room. Uh-huh. And we go in there, and then I start seeing in his face that he's pretty upset with me about something. And there are a lot of 4-letter words flying around. I think it all came down to they didn't like a particular shot from the night before, how it represented him or whatever it may have been. It was just a heat of the moment for the moment. But he's laying into me pretty good. And at that point, as their video director, you kind of have to just
suck it up.
You got to you're taking
Sorry.
bullet,
Yeah.
and you just got to take it.
Let
And
'em down.
I'm actually getting kind of upset because my daughter has her nails digging into my leg, and I can tell that she's actually in fear.
Yeah, she's scared. Yeah.
She's scared. And so Joe finishes, and I go, okay, I'll take care of that. Not a problem. And he goes, good. And so we walk out of the dressing room. And as I'm walking out of the dressing room, my daughter looks up to me in this cute little 3-4-year-old little face and goes, Daddy, that was one angry pirate.
Nice.
Forever, I'll always forever have that one.
Joe's a pirate.
Joe's a pirate.
I love it. That's pretty cool.
Hope and the pirate.
Daily occurrences.
Well, but in Jeff, you go, hey, Steve, and it's Steve and Tyler, and he goes, come over, I want you to meet Dave. And he comes over and meets Dave. And I was just like, frickin' Jeff, man. Like, hey, I just want you to meet Dave. It was so cool.
Well, Steve, a lot of those guys are just genuinely nice guys. I mean, they all have their particular idiosyncrasies. All artists do.
Yeah.
And it's like a relationship. There are days when they just have a chip on the shoulder, and so some days are better than others. Okay. But Steven Tyler, Joe Perry, the whole Aerosmith band, the kindest guys in the world. I mean, the sweetest guys in the world, and some of the greatest musicians. And they're playing better now than they've ever played in decades. So good for them. I'd love to go back to work for them. I'd take another trip around the globe with Steven Tyler.
I think at a point, some of these artists, it kind of clicks in that you just said it, that they realize they're fortunate that their career just keeps extending on, and that it hasn't been like a flash in the pan. And they, at one point, they realize that. Steven he has his idiosyncrasies, and he is a unique dude. Going
Jeff
back to the Vision days. What's that?
Jeff knows those.
Oh yeah, I mean, because they used to come by Vision, and he'd bring the kids, and we'd get them skateboards and everything, and then years later, we talked about this on the last show, Dave. When do you remember the big deal back in the East Coast got all, like around 2003, 2004, something like that, when the whole power grid went out and everything was down? Well, I was in Detroit, and I was at the same 5-star hotel as Aerosmith and Kiss. And power's out, man. You can't do anything. And there's a grand piano down in the lobby, and I'm down there. Well, I know Joe and everyone from the days of Vision, and I knew some of the guys in Kiss. Well, Joe, he's got his bus, right? Because he never takes the plane. So he's sitting in his bus he parked it right in front of the window, opened all his screens, turned on his flat screen, and had his air conditioning going while we're sitting in candlelight in the lobby. And so I'm talking to Steven, and we walk out onto the sidewalk, and Steven's got these 2 bodyguards with him because Detroit's black, it's blacked out. There is not a light, and you hear sirens going, and you hear guys breaking into stores and shit. And we're standing out there, and Steven looks at me and he goes, this is like the weirdest thing ever. And I go, I know. In a weird way, I kind of want to walk around and get out and see what's really happening out there. And he goes, let's do that. And this big hand comes out and grabs him and goes, no, you're not going anywhere,
Probably a security guy.
Yeah, exactly.
The guys that are paid to have sense, yeah.
It was like, I don't know who this crazy friend of yours is, but you're not going anywhere, and it's fun, like you said, when you get to know them on that level,
Well, you're a family at that point because, I mean, we always thought of it as being pirates. Yeah. You roll into town with 100 of your best friends. On big tours, it's more than 100. You all know each other.
Village.
Right, you go pillage the village.
Absolutely. Village and then get out.
Absolutely. And it felt that way. I mean, you knew you were protected.
Party, get as much money as you can, and leave, right? So.
Well, those were lessons to some of the old school guys pounded into my head. The first couple of tours I came home broke even, you know what I mean?
And rightly so. You've got to live a little and then get smarter later.
True enough.
Yeah.
Well, see, the thing is, you never did anything. It was just one constant. But, you know, some of the older guys pounded in your head, hey, work less, make more.
Yeah.
So
Imagine that.
it changes your perspective on touring. I mean, these days, instead of the other lifestyle, it's I take my camera, I'm taking photographs, going through museums, going to see other musicians.
Doesn't Joe? I thought that there's a couple of pretty big rock stars that go and visit like the Smithsonian. They're really into history, like Civil War, things like that, and they go and do that instead of partying all night anymore.
Oh no, that's the norm now. No, I mean,
you can't party all night anymore.
No. I mean, you know, there are terms. One offhand is if you're wired, you're fired. You know what I mean? If you're
sure.
That doesn't happen much anymore.
Unless you play lead guitar.
I have to tell you, most of the road guys that I know are very eclectic people. These guys are engineers. Rock and roll. This isn't some guy just putting a guitar on the stage. These are engineers that are running complicated equipment that is computerized and synced to the music. And this stuff is real deal.
Sure.
The safety factor is huge.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Take just what you do, Jeff, and we've brushed on it here already, but these are brands now, okay? I mean, however you take that as far as it's good, it's bad, but you know, it's come to a point where they're brands, and you're helping cultivate that image and making sure, just as you said, Joe hauled you in, didn't like that shot. It's because he's worried about how he looks and appears on stage. And so you're the one who makes that. You help cultivate that look and give it so that when the fan walks out, they're like, man, I just experienced more than the music. I experienced a video presentation, and I feel like I got to see them there, right up close. And that's kind of what you're doing, you know? I mean,
it's exactly, Brad. I mean, when my daughter was born, I took a couple years off and I stopped touring. And I would go to my shows with my daughter's mom. I think we went to a Coldplay show and kind of shows that I wouldn't normally be a part of because I just don't work for those guys. But we would go to some shows. And I would sit there for the first shows. I would critique everything. I'd look at it and go, picking everything apart. Well, that guy stole that from me and all this kind of stuff. And then I got to start looking around at the crowd and realizing that this is an experience. It may be the happiest experience. It may be the saddest experience. But I'm looking around. I'm seeing people enjoy. I'm seeing people crying. I'm seeing people see their first live show of their lives. And I started looking at it with a new appreciation for what was going on backstage. Because during those times, you kind of get complacent with it all, and it's just another show. Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, we go do shows. It's the same show pretty much every night. Yeah. Every once in a while, a few things changes. Pretty much the same show. Yeah. So you just get lost in it. It's just another city. Yeah. Where am I tomorrow? And I came back and started doing shows again. And I had a new appreciation, and I'm realizing the effect that you have on everybody's experience. And
their first time.
Oh, I'm telling you what, I can't tell you how much I enjoy that now. And the guys that do the same job as me is George Elizondo and a few other big name guys. There's not a whole lot of them out there. It's quite a responsibility for not only for the artist, but you're just the last line of defense. You're looking after the image, the brand, and you want the rock star to be the rock star.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, listen.
That's why people come.
That's what they're paying for.
You're huge now because everybody's looking at the
Well, that's all it is anymore. And thank God for that.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
and I think it's going to become even more, because the thing that we're all worried about is that with the proliferation of electronics and everybody looking at their screen and everybody having everything pumped into their 62-inch TV in their living room, well, you know, I've heard it, you've heard it. It's, well, why do I need to go to a live show? I can watch. No, you've got to go to a live show. If you've never experienced a live show, you haven't experienced it. So adding that is one more thing to attract those people.
Well, it'll be, and I watch these AR and VR shows.
Hologram.
You know, well, the point about it is it's all to me, it's a bit too computerized, and it's the wave of the future. It's the way it's going to happen. But that relationship between the crowd and the band doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. No matter how much they put people in pictures, like as we're looking right now, we're not in the same room, and you never will be.
You are absolutely right. There is nothing like a live Man Seeks Adventure show, and people should book us even more.
That's right.
Absolutely. I think that we should do some live events.
Before we get too far down, I want to go back to, I just want to be out there to know that, hey, Jeff, do you know Bob Schaefer? Bobby Schaefer? He's a rigger.
Oh, yeah. I think you're mispronouncing his last name. The guitar tech?
No. He's a rigger. He's a lighting guy, but he's a rigger. He doesn't do the actual. Anyway, he's done tons of shows. He's on The Voice now. But anyway, he told me, this is 6 months ago, they were doing a show. I forget who he was on tour with. One of the little, like, Disney something. Anyway, he literally and another dude, they go, hey, there's a bar like about a quarter of a mile. They took the forklift and went to the bar. I shouldn't even say his name. And what?
No, you shouldn't.
But they rode over to the bar.
Again, I think you mispronounced his last name.
No, I did.
I think it's Smith. I'm pretty sure it's Smith, Dave.
Anyway, but yeah, he's so great. But he goes, yeah, we rode over in a forklift and then rode back.
I thought you were going to tell us and he ran all of the lighting from his phone or something.
I just wanted to say, rock and roll is not dead. There's still people that live.
Hey, I think it'll come back, and I think it'll come back strong.
Yeah, I think people are going to be longing to get out and see that the whole visceral thing of, you know, the guy next to you sweating and the girl jumping and, you know, getting excited on somebody's, you know, shoulders. So, hey, along that lines, do you know what time it is, Dave?
Time for drink of the day.
Drink of the day. That's right. Drink of the day.
I brought it up at the beginning.
But I need to say this before you go to this drink of the day today. When I was watching last week's episode, your drink of the day was the eruption, and that's something we don't say on this island.
We forgot to.
I live beneath a volcano.
See a volcano, right?
You don't say words like that.
So Jeff,
Wow.
you wouldn't make a picture of those up and run out on the veranda there and see your neighbors out and go, hey, eruption ready.
You know, that wouldn't go over too well.
That drink is blowing up all over the place, man.
It is. But okay, so if you watch our video this week, when we post it, I'm going to make a cocktail that is not a cocktail. This has got to be the most
cocktail
fucking simple drink I've ever made, other than the week we just popped beers. Because I tried to come up with something that would go with Backstage, that would be a little bit more than some total simplicity. But what I wanted to do is, I thought to myself, what are things that I always thought anybody could find after the work's done, after everything's ready and it's time to have a cocktail or a drink or something. So I have made a drink called the Backstage Beer. We're going to just take half a beer, pour it in a cup. And now I'm going to use on the video my Eddie Van Halen cup, which did you see that cup that, I
did, it's cool.
I striped that myself. That was my art project. And then we're just going to fill that halfway with beer. I'm going to use Tecate beer because I like that little bit of extra bite to it. Then we're going to put in, you can use lemonade. I'm using Rockstar lemonade because I figure if you've worked your ass off, you've been doing the rigging, hauling all the stuff, a little bit of extra energy punch wouldn't hurt you. And then just to give it a little more flavor, we're going to add what you could find backstage is ginger ale because somebody had some mixers back there somewhere on their rider probably. And we're going to throw that in for a little effervescence.
Why don't you use ginger beer?
Well, no, you can't put beer on beer, Dave. You just a little ginger ale.
So ale is
ginger ale, beer, and some lemonade. And we call it the Backstage Beer. So that's it. We're going to do it. Look for it.
Roadies will drink anything. I remember
there you go.
On the Madonna tour, there's a particular guy I was on tour with, and we ran out of everything, and the only thing left in the mini bar was Yoo-Hoo and gin.
Oh, my God.
That sounds awesome.
You could have told me that. It could have been the drink of the day.
I think Yoo-Hoo and rum would work, but Yoo-Hoo and gin, that's pretty good.
We could have called it we could have named it the leftover.
The true roadie drink per evening is what is average left in the band dressing room by the time you walk by to take a shower.
Yes.
Hey, Brad, what is my favorite bar in Vegas?
Which one? Are you talking about the one where they have punk rock karaoke?
That's the one. Double Down. The one. So the Double Down has the ass juice where they took everything that's been over-poured and they make a drink out of it and give it to you. It's like, oh, and it's
the trough.
It's actually pretty good. Not that
wow.
We did them for Man 6 Adventure, Jeff.
You know what?
Your team.
I do it anyway.
When you're drinking those guys, you end up driving forklifts to the bar.
That's exactly right.
No, you end up stealing forklifts.
To the next bar. Literally, I'll tell you, I'm back on the Backstage Beer, and my Backstage Beer is you open the can and you pour half in a red cup, and then you drink the rest of the can, and then you drink that beer and you leave.
There you go. You know what? You're right. I should have mixed that one for the video into a red cup. I blew it. You're right. That would have been better. So,
yeah.
Well, hey, Don Schumacher. Don tells me, he says, you can be in the pit lane at NHR if you have a red cup. So I'm in the back, I get a red cup, and Don walks over and he sits down, and he's got shit to do, but he looks at me and he goes, "Red cup, do you know Toby Keith?" And I go, "No, I don't know Toby. How would I know him?" And he goes, "Do you want to go meet him and see a concert?" And I'm like, "Okay." And he said, then he'll play red cup and we'll get red cups and we can go out on stage. I'm like, holy crap, man.
That's the easiest pass ever.
Yeah. So there's Jeff's life in a nutshell.
I remember the first time I went to an NHR event and got to meet Don Schumacher. Dave introduced me, but as we were walking into the pits, Dave said, "Don't look at him."
Yeah, he did. I said, "Don't look at him."
Kind of like Madonna.
So Jeff, we got it. Okay. So now you've got a career. You are the man. Everybody needs your abilities, your lighting, your video, your editing, and that camera angle. You are the producer, basically, because it's a visual production that you're saying cut to 5, cut to camera 6, cut to the leg cam, cut to
Dave. You Dave.
And so now you're with Van Halen. Tell us how that happened, and kind of take us through and tell us about backstage life with Van Halen and everything like that.
Okay, some of the most blessed days of my life. I owe it all to my dear friend Scotty Ross.
Great
Scotty
guy.
Ross was the reason why I ended up there, and I can't recall the story exactly the way it went down, but Scotty contacted me through the video company I was working with and said, "I want you to meet with the band for some particular reason." So we're in the car, Bob dates, Scotty, myself, and it could have been the production manager, Frank Stetler, at the time. I don't recall.
God, all names. I mean, Scotty, but the other ones, it's like, God, yeah, that's right.
But we're all in the car and we're going to meet with the band. And this was on the Balance tour. And Scotty's on the phone with, I think it was maybe, I mean, Al was is the business guy of the band. Al would kind of ran the show. And so Al says to Scotty, well, we want the guy that did the Metallica show. And I see this look on Scotty's face, this gleam on his face, because that's the tour I just left.
Yeah.
So when I walk into the room with the band, there's already a mutual respect and knowing, as you guys well know, Van Halen.
You have clout.
Well, no, there's clout, but the sarcasm starts from moment one. They don't care who you are.
Yeah.
Alex is ripping into you. Eddie's kissing you. Scotty's
talking like this, and he's going, "Hey, man,
here's the guy." But Scotty knows my backstory because Van Halen used to play in the town that I grew up in Claremont, California. They used to play the Youth Activity Center. I bet they were called Mammoth then.
Mammoth.
You knew him as Mammoth, yeah.
So I would go, and I wasn't old enough to get in because you had to have your student ID card. I couldn't get in because I wasn't a student at the high school yet. And I would listen to the band outside the propped open door. But so Scotty knows my backstory, that I've known these guys since I was, before high school. So I walk into the meeting with him, and we hit it off amazingly. And it was immediate. It was just, to me, it was mind boggling. You think of Van Halen, the next thing you know, you're sitting on a couch with Eddie and Alex, and everybody's laughing and telling jokes, and you're just part of the family at that point. So Scotty was the reason. He's the reason why I got that gig. He promoted me. He trusted me. He backed me. And I'll forever be grateful for that. But so we did the Balance tour, which was pretty much North America, Canada, US. I don't think we played many other places. Japan, maybe not on that tour, but we would always finish the show in Hawaii. Every tour would end in Hawaii.
That was your idea, right?
No, but I always loved it because I had always heard that the last shows in Hawaii.
Where would they play?
Blaisdell.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, this is as Van Halen. This is 1995. But the stories with those guys on that tour, because I literally got to know them so well. I mean, would hang out at the studio with Ed because Ed always had these great ideas, and Alex would always approve them and let me do them. I could put whatever I wanted to on the screens to the music, which, if you remember those tours in 1995, I would have the world's greatest surf photographers, water guys, shoot stuff for me, and I would put it on the screen. They let me get away with pretty much anything I wanted to do. And it was, it was a lot of fun. And Scotty was kind of the ringmaster of that, as well as Frank Stetler. But that's the start. I did the Balance tour, and then I came back. And after that, Sammy had left after the Balance tour. And I came back to do VH3 with Gary Sharon. And that was a whole different ball of wax, but it was still Van Halen. But I think, between myself, Maddie, who runs the studio, I've heard that he's actually back in there going through the archives now after Ed's passing to kind of put stuff together musically. And Jerry Harvey Audio. I think there may be a couple more guys, very limited, but we're the only guys that have ever worked for 3 renditions of the band. I first did Sammy, I did Gary, and then in the last tour, I went out, I worked with Dave. So I feel blessed, man. I saw all 3 versions.
No, that's awesome. That is
and
awesome.
To watch Eddie solo every day on a camera, Bruce Green, Bruiser, was Eddie's cameraman. And to have a camera zoomed in on Eddie's pick, looking like, it was like a helicopter, and to hear it.
I don't know how he does it, man.
It was astonishing and just amazing to be able to witness that every day. Van Halen was very special. As well, I would have Wolfie and Valerie and whatever guests were coming, they would hang out back by me because they didn't want to go out in the crowd or stand on the stage. So Frank Stetler would set up couches, and the audio guys, I think it was Lori Quigley was the front of house guy, and it may have been Sprague was doing monitors, but they would do my own mix to 2 monitor wedges back in Video World. It was louder backstage than it ever was out in front.
Really?
They would have to mix it because all the celebrities would come hang out with us. And I mean, I didn't know who was behind me, but I knew that Valerie would come by and hang out with Wolfie a lot and hang out. And come on, man, it just doesn't get any better than that.
No, it was awesome. I mean, it was, you keep saying family, and you're right. You know, it's because everybody was so, if you were in the group, they were so accepting of everybody. And Val's a really good example because, you know, I'd been hanging around and been around more of the people, but then remember how Ed used to do his charity golf tournament at every year?
Yes.
And then he would have like this kind of party. The one year it was at the Hard Rock in Hollywood, you know, in Beverly Hills there. And Valerie met my wife for the first time. And you would have thought, I mean, all of a sudden she became one of the, you know, she's there with, I'm trying to remember her really good friend, the blonde actress.
Yeah.
But
Faith
anyways,
Ford.
Faith Ford, thank you. All of a sudden I see Charlotte is with Val and Faith Ford and, you know, some other people, you know, sitting up on the back of the booth watching, you know, the things go on. And I was just like, that's exactly what you said. They made her feel like she'd always been around everybody the first time they ever met her because, you know,
they made everybody feel. They made, I mean, it was special if you knew them personally and you had the private times with them. That was unbelievable. But for the average fan, they made everybody feel comfortable and wanted and welcome. Everybody.
But you know, when you're talking about that, when they're all standing behind you, I've seen you doing that. And I literally, you're like, once the show starts, you know, the band's playing, but they're just playing, but what's the set list? I don't know. What are we playing next? But you kind of are in control of the show, in my experience. No, you are.
I get lost. I get immersed into the music. And you know, and that's a result of working for Van Halen. Alex taught me music tempo. Alex plays 4/4s. And he taught me tempo. And because if you don't hit the image before the beat, then you miss the beat.
You miss it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Alex kind of taught me all of that.
Cool.
And I get immersed in it. I mean, trust me, guys, I get lost. After a show, I'm just wiped out. I mean, especially for a rock and roll show.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to do it after the fact, right? You could cue up the image to the sound, but during the show, it's a crapshoot, right? You're like, oh,
well, see, I mean, anymore people do program the show to a computer, and it's a one push show. It runs synced. It runs all that.
No matter what they're playing.
But I'm grateful that I got to start in the analog days where it was live.
And let's explain that a little bit, because I understand what you're saying is that you were wiped out at the end because it was analog. You had to be on the edge of your seat waiting for anything that happened, because anything from a broken guitar string where somebody had to walk off really quick to something happening in the audience that you wanted to grab, right?
Well, you know what? I mean, there were moments, and even with Van Halen, there were moments when they were not having the best of shows. And with a couple of different shots, or a shot of a good-looking gal in the crowd or something, or the roar from the crowd, it can change. It can create that snowball. It can also be a bad thing as well. I remember Alex saying to me, "Hey, brother, is your name on the marquee?"
Yeah.
No. Then don't act like you're the show.
That's very Ted Nugent. Last time I checked, it's a Ted Nugent band.
Right. Well, that's it. I mean, that's what Alex said. Hey, at the end of the show, Jeff, I don't care what's on the screen. They're there to see us. Okay, Alex. But I mean, but you can control that. I mean, for instance, even to take a step away from Van Halen for a minute, on Kevin Hart, we were shooting in the round, and I happened to have this guy sleeping in the crowd, and it was a great shot.
Brad, that was when we were.
No. That was you, Dave. You had a few too many that night.
I've never had too many.
That's true.
It was a great shot. And so I put it up on the screens, and there was a roar in the arena. And Kevin was startled. He jumped because he wasn't expecting that laughter or the interaction with the crowd at that point. He's so timed to his comedy that he knows when he's expecting a response.
Right.
And I mean, I put it this way: after that night, I ran to the dressing room to catch him before he got in there and apologized and said, "I'm really sorry. I mean, I forgot about the fact that this is. I mean, I just forgot about the fact that this may throw you off."
Yeah.
So you do have that ability to change and to up the ante a bit. You can change the energy in a big way, real fast.
Let's go back to something you said where you said you got to watch Eddie every single night. I mean, that's something that when you really, I've been thinking about it after you said it because, we go in, the average fan goes in and we see that show and it's all happening in front of our eyes. So, we're watching Al, we're watching, Sam or Dave, we're watching Ed, and yeah, there's moments where each one has their thing. However, you had that unique perspective where because it was night after night after night, you could really immerse yourself in certain aspects. And you probably know it better than anybody because visually that's what you were looking at,
Well, you're absolutely right because I probably know the show better than they do.
Yeah.
As far as that goes. Hey, listen, I don't remember what I do, but I know exactly where they're supposed to be and what they're doing. And that one of the things that really got me closer with a lot of the artists that I've worked with is because everybody will always praise the artist. And I know when they had a rough night, and I would never say it in front of anybody else. But I could walk up to Angus Young and go, ooh, ding, ding, ding. And, and he would go, Jeffrey, you at least at least But every idiosyncrasy. I know every one of Mikey's background vocals. I know what he says. I mean, I'm saying the same thing backstage. I'm saying it before they say it because it helps my cameraman be ready for the next shot. Right. Trust me, after about 50 shows, some of the crew guys who have worked all day setting up the stage, probably out the night before because they're the young ones, they're tired. And by the end of the show, they're pretty cooked and they're not, I mean, they may not be engaged. So you have to keep them engaged and I'm a verse ahead. So I'm telling the guys where to be. The solo is going to happen here. Mikey's going to say this. Alex is going to hit this. Sammy's going to do this. And you need to be ahead of the game. So to keep everybody engaged and to be a participant, because if you lose them, you lose them. And, as the band knows, once you go out of tune, once it starts going downhill, it can go real fast. God, yeah, man. I tell you what, I'm just getting excited even talking about the Van Halen days.
Let me ask you something, because this was something that kind of like put my head spinning the first time I was ever there. And because you said you came and you were like, oh, this is cool, I get to go into music, and I know Dave's experienced, one or two of these, but rehearsal, because everybody thinks rehearsal is, okay, the band all gets there and they do their sound check or whatever. But the first time I ever went there and Sam's not there, it's just the rest of the band and they're doing their thing. And all of a sudden they go, yeah, hey. And it was like, wait a minute, because it goes back to what you're saying, that they all know where they have to hit with their background vocals and everything. And it's this odd thing. The first time you see it, you kind of go, whoa, I didn't expect that.
Well, And there's some people are just rehearsal madmen. Neil Diamond, we would go in 5 hours. I mean, we were there all day, but he would come in about 5 hours before doors, and he would do the whole show, note by note, and he would critique the horn players, or we should do this, or you know what, I don't like that tempo. Angus Young, for instance, would get on stage and play his guitar. And I mean, these are the amazing things about these artists. We were in some festival in Europe, and it was a temporary stage. And it may have been a Milton Keynes or something, but it wasn't the normal stage. And Angus got on stage and played a couple of notes and went over to Opie, the production manager, goes, "There's something wrong. There's something wrong here. It doesn't feel right. It's not hitting me in the chest." And there's nobody in the crowd. This is in the afternoon. And Opie goes, "Oh my God, you're absolutely right. The stage wasn't secured with weight. The stage would kind of rumble. It didn't have the same rigidness that a permanent stage would have. The ballast wasn't correct." But Angus could tell that by playing a note on his guitar.
Wow.
But those guys, the real good guys are they're in music 100% of the time. They're thinking it. It's a constant. This isn't just a game. These guys.
Of course. Yeah.
It's a constant. You know, you used to hear Sammy back doing his vocal warm-ups. You know the real good guys because they're not going to go out to that crowd and give them less than 100%. Van Halen never did.
And it hasn't changed to this day. With the Circle, those guys always do their warm-up. They're always back there, Sam, Mike, and they're on the, I don't know what they're called because I'm not a musician, but the static drums, the drum pads, and they go through it, man. They warm up. And I remember Sammy, I think it was the Balance tour that he had his punching bag. He'd be back there doing his thing.
They all ride bikes now. Mick Jagger rides bike. He has always done it before.
Well, Sammy's a fanatic too.
Yeah, he do it in between. Because you want to run out on stage and keep the energy up, but yeah, he rides that stationary bike in between. Mick Jagger.
Jeff, what stories can you share that would just be a great way to honor Ed? Some stuff that you had the honor and puts a smile on your face that you got to experience with Ed.
Well, there's way too many to mention, but I remember one particular evening. We were at Nissan Pavilion, and I was in the dressing room. This is before the show. And I would go in and just chat with the guys. I usually would, my thing is, I will always say to the band guys, it started with AC/DC. "Hey guys, thanks for coming, man. Isn't this great? Look at it. Look at the crowds out there. This is going to be great." And I would sit down with Ed, and you could tell that Ed was a bit distressed. And I think that he and Sam had some type of disagreement of some sort. And that would bother him. To the core, that would bother him. And this is obviously in the Balance tour, so there was already trouble brewing because that was kind of the last one Sam did for a while. And Eddie's going, "God, I wish I could find somebody that just gets it, man, that just wants to play music and has the vibe, and you know what I mean, right?" And I'm going, yeah, I do, Coach. And he goes, and he looks me dead in the eyes and goes, "Can you sing?" And for them, and I'm just, obviously, no, Ed, I can't sing. But for a moment there, the invitation to be the lead singer for Van Halen was that close.
Nice.
I can only sing. Damn it.
Damn it. Yeah.
I can't, but I'll learn how.
Oh, I would have never taken that one on for the life of me. But there are many other stories on Van Halen.
I would argue, Jeff, that I would guess you could sing as well as Dave.
I wouldn't have said that, Dave.
I did. I mean, I've seen it, but
But he
him.
can't kick
don't-
as high. That's the problem. He can't kick as
right.
high. So
No, Dave can kick.
yeah.
And the showmanship for sure. But
Oh God, yeah. Well, I mean, out of all the singers, Sammy by far was the most resonant with the fans. But Gary was a pretty good singer too. Gary could sing everything. The crowd wasn't ready for him.
It was a different vibe. We
played a show in Sydney, Australia, live on MTV, and Gary came out in more of a Freddie Mercury kind of attire, so to speak. And I just think that people that just rubbed. He wasn't Sammy. He wasn't in surf trunks. He wasn't in a t-shirt. And it just didn't work.
Can't relate. Yeah.
And Extreme does well. I mean, he and Nuno they're matched pretty good. You know, that's just what it is.
And Gary's a very sweet guy. I hung out a lot with him on the road. In fact, we were in Wellington, New Zealand to start. I think we were starting the tour. And it was just me because I was using local crews and equipment. So it was just Scotty, myself, Bob Dates, may have been Rob Kern. But we finished rehearsals and we go to the hotel and we're sitting in the lobby and Eddie wants to play piano. And he sits down at the piano. We get a beer and kind of just sit there with him. We're just chit-chatting. And Eddie started playing, just noodling. And I realized, oh my God, I'm in the presence of Bach, of Beethoven, Mozart. It was your skin, the hair on your arm was standing up, and he's just noodling and having a good time. He was comfortable. There was nobody else there. It was just the family of the crew. And it was the most extraordinary hour that I can remember. I wish people could have seen that part of Ed. I mean,
well, I would hope, Jeff, that whatever music they find, that it's that kind of stuff, not.
Well, I don't know. See, the thing about that is too, in all honesty, there's probably people will disagree with me on this one. If Ed wanted that music out, Ed would have put that music.
Yeah, sure, and that's what I mean. But maybe it's just him. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, because I agree with you. Well, I mean, I don't know if people know this, but Ed would play every instrument before it ever got to recording the album. Ed would play bass. Ed would play drums. Ed would play guitar. Ed would do the synthesizers. Ed would be out recording the sound of his Ferrari roaring up and down. He uses background or the drill from Pound Cake or all of that stuff. I mean, Ed was he was a perfectionist. I mean, even on Van Halen 3, I know that Eddie made the record company. Was it Warner Brothers at the time? Must have been Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Warner, I think.
Eddie made Warner Brothers get him full access to where they were pressing the CDs.
Yeah.
Eddie wanted to know what the difference was from when they started pressing them and when they heated up, what the difference in music was from the beginning of the press.
What was the sound variance, right?
Because he only wanted to release perfection.
Right. John Lennon did that. I mean, they have that in common. John experimented all the time with like wattage and, but back in those days, they didn't really know how to tweak the songs. So he used electricity to slow it down or speed it up he did all kinds of weird shit.
Well, you know what? I mean, Eddie at 5150 was kind of a mad scientist. And I heard you in the last episode tell stories about the place. I mean, I know the guest house well because that's where Scotty's and Maddie's office was. And I spent a lot of time in there. Hey, listen, when they gave me the gate code, I knew I was in.
You knew you were in, man.
Hey, now, does the family still own that property? Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay, then I won't say the gate code.
And I don't even say what street. I always just say the canyon.
The canyon.
That's how Eddie always used to say. Just refer to it as the canyon.
So Jeff, did you say thanks, but I can't give you mine? You can't have my code.
Uh,
You got to go there for a while.
yeah. You know, I mean, those guys used to. I mean, their sense of humor is. I mean, Al's as sarcastic as can be, but I love that man like a brother as well. And I feel for Al because with Ed gone, Al has to be just crushed.
Yeah, kind of just feels. I would
you're
imagine that
He's
Al
probably
would be.
a little aimless. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Dave. Aimless. Like, what happens now? What do I do now? It's.
Well, you know something. My hope was after this pandemic passed that Van Halen would go do it one more time.
We all were
trying.
And Eddie was like I said, for the last, I think it was, it stopped about 6 months ago. Ed must have got much more, his health must have declined about that time. But I was getting texts from him on a weekly basis. Hey, brother, how you doing? And I mean, one of the things, because we always stayed in touch. One of the honors of knowing Eddie Van Halen, it was getting a call from Alex going, hey, talk to Ed. And I go, okay, he puts him on the phone. He goes, hey, listen, there's a exhibit at the Smithsonian and they want my guitar and some memorabilia. Do you have my solo on tape?
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, I'll get that to you, man. So, I mean, I don't know if it's there. I haven't been there to see it. But to think that the solo that I directed of Edward Van Halen on Balance is sitting in the Smithsonian is
nice.
That's forever. That's forever.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
It's we keep going back to how fortunate we were to have these personal interactions with them, and it's so true. But what you had was, which I'm just looking at it personally. What's so different? What you had was that Ed's whole being and whole life, and I mentioned on the last show how whenever we sat down, he that was his his security blanket, and he'd just be sitting there plunking as he was talking. But what you had, Jeff, was so important to him because it was his whole soul and being was music, and you were such a big part of that because for all the guys, it was not only taking and allowing everybody to see the music, but to see the music in a visual way, get those close-ups, get everything. And I'm sure he had to that's why he appreciated what you did so much.
But he trusted me, and I trusted him, and he trusted me. He gave me the ability to do what I wanted, but there was a level of trust. Trust me, there are a lot of guys, like I mentioned a few names, Jerry Harvey, Matty, John Douglas, that was his drum tech after Rob Kern. There are a few of us. I mean, the thing is that the artist walks on stage and everybody else is kind of in awe of them, but they walk in and see us and there's a consistency there.
Yeah.
Their bubble, so to speak, the bubble is impenetrable.
Yeah.
You can't get inside there without us going through us first.
Yeah.
And they trust that. They know that they're safe.
Well, and you have to have confidence too, because to make them the best they can be, you got to be able to walk up to them once in a while and go, we should really try it this way or whatever. And that's where that trust is that you're talking about. Because if you were just like, okay, whatever you want.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
It's not the team that you built,
They got excuse the expression, but they got everybody else kissing their ass.
Yeah.
They have everybody else kissing their ass. Yep. For instance, I don't know if you guys recall on the Balance Tour, we did an MTV live show in Pensacola, Florida. It was the first show of the tour.
Don't remember that.
Live on MTV. Or it was tape delayed to be live. And did the whole show. And we get Scotty Ross coming up going, stay here. Nobody get off camera. Everybody stay here. He's going to every department saying, everybody stand by, stand by. So we emptied the building because Eddie had missed a note
Oh, yeah, I've heard this story. Yeah,
Eddie had missed a note.
that's right.
One note. And he wanted to redo it so he could have his guys mix it in to the recording for future broadcasts. He missed one note. His finger on one string was maybe touching another string. So we got everybody out of the building, waited about 45 minutes, and he did that one note, and he goes, "Okay, we're good. Let's go."
Yeah.
See, and Axel would have gone, shit, and just leave.
Well, see, I did those tours with Metallica where it was the Guns N' Roses Metallica co-headlining.
Yeah.
I saw Axl walk off stage quite a few times.
Me too.
Created a couple riots during that tour. I have to, another great moment, and this was on the last time I worked with them. And this was when Dave was singing. And that was a whole different feeling. I mean,
oh yeah.
I admired the fact that Eddie and Alex and even Wolfie tolerated Dave.
This is a different Dave, by the way. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, it's Diamond Dave.
The other Diamond Dave.
It's the other Diamond Dave. But we were doing a show, of all places, at the Paso Robles County Fair.
That's a good fair.
It is a good fair. It was a big show, but we're playing the fair. And Alex and Eddie and I are standing next to this fence. And some cowboy comes up and he goes, "Hey, fellas, you're gonna need to back up a little bit." And they lifted the truck ramp off over the top of this thing, and they ran the steers through. They ran the steers rodeo under the stage back to their holding things. And Alex looks at me and goes, "We've really made it now."
Nothing get any better than this.
I've never heard that one. That one's awesome.
Nice.
So, man, and this has been so much fun, and I know you have so many more stories. But we've been on here forever. We got to kind of wrap it up. But you're in heaven over there. I know you want to leave heaven and go back on the road at some point. But you're the only guy I know that has a table that's made out of a surfboard. I know that's.
No, I'm actually just. This is a special board.
Ah.
Nice.
If I can get it in there.
Look at that.
Nice.
It's hand painted by Bill Stewart.
He just airbrushed everything for you, huh?
Airbrushed everything. Liquid Aloha.
Nice.
Nice. That's cool.
I could use some Liquid Aloha right now.
Yeah. I'm going to go mix one up when we're off. But Jeff.
Guys, it's still early in the morning for me. I'm not kidding. No.
It's early in the morning here, too.
I'm sure it's 8:30 in the morning somewhere for me, too.
Well, guys, this has been fun. I'd love to do it again. To be honest with you, there are so many stories that we didn't even get into that I'd love to share. The AC/DC stuff is just as interesting and personal. But you know what? As a group, I know that we can all say our heart goes out to the Van Halens and to the world that truly, unfortunately, won't know him as well as we did. He's a tough loss.
Yeah.
It is. It's really tough because it's when I think about it in the terms of, wow, this is forever. We're never going to hear that genius again. We're never going to see that smile and never get to interact again. it's
and to see it in person, it's just, it's like seeing the Pope. I brought the Pope up before, but it's like, hey, did you happen to watch the Billboard Awards?
I know.
They did a tribute to Ed. So they did a tribute to Ed, and I the rest of it was kind of weird. But if you watch just that part, literally they put his guitar on a guitar stand, and the lights were just on the guitar, and then it faded away. It was really
classy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Classy. I have seen a few things with Ed on YouTube when he's talking about the life story. I don't know where I saw it. It was, on some Instagram thing. But the tributes are just starting. And here's the great news, guys. Knowing Eddie Van Halen personally, he's right here.
Yeah.
I feel for Sam and Michael because of their closest we'll never even understand.
Yeah.
But still knowing that Mikey's here and that Sammy's out doing his thing, he's still right here.
Yeah.
He'll never go away.
No.
Ever.
It won't.
The good news is, guys, and I'm going to reach out to Wolfie to let him know this, is that I don't know if he still has all the tapes because I recorded every show.
So you can get them to him.
I have a lot of those shows packed away someplace. I mean, they're VHS tapes, but they're worthy of watching.
Oh, yeah. No, they're awesome. And, we appreciate you taking your time and, talking about your buddy and we
got to a video capture.
We just think it's great. And I want to let everybody know, Jeff, who's been our buddy and been our friend on Man Seeks Adventure, he reached out to us and said, man, this would be great. And I was like, oh my God, this would be awesome. Dave and I talked about it. Dave was a little reluctant, but he said, once we have Jeff on there, why do you need me anymore? And
no, I didn't say that. I said, why do we need you?
That's what I said. Why do you need me? Yeah.
Oh, I think you meant me.
Hey guys, anytime. I mean, when you got a slow week, I'm open to talk music and sports or whatever, Hawaii, whatever you want.
No one will ever know my sensitive side, but Jeff sent me a picture of the train bar the other day, and I started crying.
He misses it so much.
I miss it so much. And then just out of the blue, though, I get a text and I go, "What is this?" And then it's the train bar, and I go, "Jeff, damn it!"
Brad, you're gonna have to. We'll have to meet up and do that when Japan opens up because the tap room? What is it? 2 taps or 2 dogs tap?
2 dogs tap.
2 dogs tap room, right?
You got to go to 2 dogs.
Let's just do it. Let's just say when everything opens back up fully, we're gonna go to Japan. We're all gonna meet up there.
You got it, guys.
Hey, guys, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, do you want to say where people can find you at Jeff Clare on Instagram or anything?
I think it's Jeff Clare 50. I mean, I'm not a real big social media guy, but you can find me.
You're not a social media guy. You are our roaring reporter. You're all over the internet, man.
See, but
he sends it to you.
That's just a lifestyle, guys.
It sounds familiar, right?
And I have a lot more of those things. I'll put them together. They're kind of silly stuff, but
they're fun.
Oh, yeah.
You had me with Lewis Hamilton, though. I go, whoa, it's Lewis Hamilton. So that's how I titled it. I said, Jeff Clare hanging out in Bangkok with Lewis Hamilton. So,
I want to post stuff that I do, where I go, this is Dave, and I'm at a restaurant or a bar. But I don't want anybody to know that I'm going to an illegal bar.
So, hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Man Seeks Adventure. And, hey, I want to say thank you. And I'm serious. You have been going there. You have been liking us on iTunes, giving us a 5-star rating, and even leaving some positive comments, which amazed me. So it's, but we need that. We need it as much as you can do it, as many people as can do it, because that's really what helps us in the ratings. And make sure you go to our website at manseeksadventure.com. And as we said at the top of the show, don't forget our YouTube page, Man Seeks Adventure. You have to put a space between each one to find it, but we've got all kinds of great videos on there. Dave, when I look at that page, I go, man, we spent a lot of time doing this. I can't believe it. And,
hey, can I say one more thing before you sign off here? I just like
we signed off 20 minutes ago. You didn't know that?
I see the red button.
I'd like to say that, please, for anybody watching Man Seeks Adventure, support your entertainment industry, the people that are truly suffering and going through a difficult time. Write your congressman, do your whatever, the senators, fill out the petitions. These people need your help. All they want to do is get back to work so you can go enjoy yourself with your family and friends at rock shows,
Yep.
or Broadway, or any event.
Yeah.
When it comes down to benefits and reliefs, we've always been the ones to go give our time to support everything else. These folks need your time, your help, and your love right now.
That's a great point.
Hopefully.
That's a great point.
Yep.
Everybody, listen to him. Well, actually, wait a minute. I always got to listen to him because I can't remember which way it points. And you know, we appreciate you supporting them on our behalf. So, hey, Man Seeks Adventure, we're out of here. We'll be back next week. And thank you, Jeff Clare.
Love you guys.
Thanks,
Love
Jeffrey.
you too.
Aloha.
All right.
I'm gonna Eddie Van Halen you next time I see you. Kiss you on the lips.
There you go.
I want that. What are you talking about?